All right. Now, did you know that extradition of suspects or criminals only occurs when two countries have a treaty or agreement? And in case they don't have one, then rendition or non-mutual transfer can take place through methods such as kidnapping. Mark Namaswa explores the history of recent extraditions in Kenya and beyond our borders.
Kukamatwa kwa washukiwa 4 wa ulanguzi wa madawa na kukimbizwa Marekani kungali vinywani mwa sio tu raia wa kawaida ila pia viongozi.
There is no possibility.
And we apologize for that Swahili edition of the same. We will be bringing you the English version in just a short while. But let's move on to a story that has got many Kenyans suffering, where its cause of people in Taita Taveta County are struggling to stay alive as the ravaging drought takes its toll. Now, this comes as the Council of Governors announces that each county government will contribute 1 million shillings towards mitigation of the drought affecting various parts of Kenya. And as Caroline B. now reports, the governors are asking the national government to account for the 5.3 billion shillings that had been allocated for fighting drought.
The ugly face of death is staring at the residents of Taita Taveta County, with a devastating drought having taken a toll on the livestock. Majority are no more. Dead skin and carcasses lie exposed on the footpaths. Over 800 animals are reported to have succumbed to the dry weather conditions, and over 10,000 people struggling to make ends meet. The bare and scorchy earth stretches far and wide, revealing the dire situation that needs urgent intervention.
Kwa upande wa serikali hakuna kitu tunapata, maana tunajisaidia sisi wenyewe. Hatujaona mtu mkubwa yoyote amekuja akachimba kama ni hiyo kisima kusaidia wananchi. Hatujaona.
Hali ya mfugo imekuwa mbaya, hakuna nyasi. Ng'ombe ile imekufa haina hesabu. So chakula ndo hakuna kabisa.
Maize fields that had been projected as the only hope for the people here have been wiped out, and all that remains are these withered stalks. Small-scale farmers are left counting losses as a drought has left them with nothing to depend on. The very few water points in different areas are on the brink of drying up. Humans and livestock are left competing for the precious commodity. Women have to queue for long hours for the last drop of water that are waiting to dry up. The prolonged drought in Taita Taveta is as a result of lack of rainfall for 2 consecutive seasons since last year.
Hivi sasa hivi tunapata tabu. Hata baadhi ya watu wengine tumepeleka watoto shule, lakini ni shida kwa sababu hatujavuna kwa hiyo vipindi viwili vya muda wa masika, hata ile vuli hatujapata chochote.
Government identifies ranches ili vile hali sisi tuko nayo sasa hapa Mramba. Tuwe tunapatiwa hiyo ranch, tuchunge ng'ombe zetu ambazo tunazitegemea. Si hakuna kitu tunategemea sipo mfugo.
County government officials have urged farmers to sell off their livestock before they die of hunger in the highly affected areas. The relief food being distributed remains inadequate, with the county government calling for harmonization in the coordination of activities at the county levels by the county governments, national government and development partners. So far, the national government has allocated 21 billion shillings to respond to the dry spell.
Pori saizi kutakuwa na conflict between wildlife and human because of that. Kwa sababu wanyama pori saizi pia inatoka kutafuta maji. Na maji ziko kwa maboma ukumbuke. Kwa hivyo mahali watu wako ndio wanyama pia wanaweza kuwa. Kwa hivyo tunaambia watu wakuwe waangalifu.
According to the Council of Governors, as of August 2016, the number of Kenyans in need of assistance stood at 1.3 million people. By the start of February, the statistics had risen to 2.7 million and is projected to increase to 4 million people by April this year. Council Chairman Peter Munya has bashed the national government over its purported contingency fund, which Munya claims has not yet been witnessed in the counties.
Each governor will make his personal contribution to the Red Cross and Drought Fund. And additionally, each county will also contribute 1 million shillings to support the Red Cross money transfer program that is they are currently carrying on.
The residents are now appealing for more intervention from the government and other stakeholders before the human suffering and agony gets out of hand. The Kenya Red Cross Society and the county governments are appealing for 1 billion shillings to intervene and support those affected. Caroline B., KTN News.
The state is now warning that the war on terror will not be won until drug trafficking is uprooted from the coast of Kenya. Deputy President William Ruto says the two vices are intertwined. But even as the state talks tough on the menace, questions linger on whether the new resolve by the government is genuine. Here's Francis Ontomwa with that report.
There lacks reliable statistics to show the scope and extent of drug abuse at the coast of Kenya. The gap has left authorities gazing and speculating on the seriousness of the problem. Drug cartels are said to operate at major slums in Mombasa, the town of Malindi, Ukunda and Lamu, branded the hotbed. Deputy President William Ruto today met security chiefs in the region to discuss the subject.
All the officers here have been adequately briefed on what they need to do, because this is one war against drugs and terror that we must win by all means.
The drug connection has sullied the reputation of the coast of Kenya, highly deemed a favorite tourism destination.
It is a war that one feeds into the other. Drug money is being used to finance terrorist activities. And terrorism and terrorists are facilitating the trade in drugs.
Days after the extradition of the Acacia Sons and two foreigners, the matter has shaken even the political class. Nairobi Senator Mike Mbovi Sonko has dared the U.S. anti-narcotics agencies to prove his drug connection or drop his case altogether.
Tunataka wale watu wanauza miadarati, wale watu wametajwa, wote waende Amerika. Passport yangu iko tayari.
The new wave has left tongues wagging. The state now appearing to work hand in hand with international anti-narcotic agencies. But is the resolve genuine or just hot air?
Matajiri wanaenda wanaokota madawa Amsterdam sijui wapi, wanakuja kulisha watoto wao na wazazi wamekaa. They must stand up and make noise. Yeah. Let them stand up and say enough is enough. I want to see demonstrations in everywhere. Wazazi waki-demonstrate against these individuals.
The state has in the past been accused of backing up the wrong tree every time the discussion surfaces.
They have to look for another country. This Kenya, there is no place for them. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter how much money they have. It doesn't matter how much influence they think they have.
Studies show that majority of drug users start to indulge between the ages of 15 and 30. Francis Ontomwa, KTN News, Mombasa.
And in a statement today, Siaya Senator James Orengo is accusing the government of targeting opposition zones in its fight against drugs. Orengo says the government is seeking reorganization at the coast, purporting to fight the war on drugs. And that forms the basis of our big Q tonight. We are asking you whether you think the government is targeting opposition zones, as has been claimed there by Senator James Orengo in the fight against narcotics. Share your views with us at KTN News, KTN Kenya, or at Sofia Wanuna. You can send in a message. It's free to send a text to 22155. Let's take you back to that story we had for you a little bit earlier. And did you know that extradition of suspects or criminals only occurs when two countries have a treaty or agreement? Well, in a case they don't have one, then rendition or non-mutual transfer can take place through methods such as kidnapping. Here's Mark Namaso exploring the history of recent extraditions in Kenya and beyond our borders.
The recent extradition of 4 drug cartel suspects from Kenya to the United States has set off a verbal onslaught aimed at their perceived accomplices.
There is no possibility of us contemplating losing this war. because if we lose this war, we will lose our children and we will have no future.
But extradition of suspects is not a new occurrence in the country. Recent memorable cases include one involving 8 Kenyans who were whisked to Uganda to face charges of involvement in the 2010 Kampala bombing, where 73 people lost their lives.
Fraud, conspiracies, or attempts are all offenses, which means that if you go to the US and kill somebody and become a fugitive, run away from the law to Kenya, that becomes an offense extraditable.
However, cases such as that facing former Kenya Power MD Samuel Gishuru and former Finance Minister Chris Okemo, wanted in the Jersey Islands for money laundering and fraud, as well as the ICC case facing Walter Baraza, have brought into sharp focus the efficacy of extradition procedures.
Depending on how the country relates with another country and depending on how whether there is a treaty or not, you can't be extradited from every other country.
In the absence of mutual treaties between nations, rendition or transfer of suspects can still take place through methods such as kidnap. Lately, the Akasha brothers case has seen the government and external agencies such as the Drug Enforcement Administration claim credit for the arrest.
Who told you anybody has been arrested by foreigners? We did the arrest ourselves.
Why do countries agree to extradite? For other relationship, to appear tough on crime, and then for cooperation.
The United States has in the past netted Central and South American drug lords such as Manuel Noriega and Joaquin Guzman or El Chapo through extradition. Locally, the number of Kenyans held in foreign prisons over various crimes remains largely unknown. Mark Namaswa, KTN News.
The media and bloggers can tonight heave a sigh of relief after the High Court ruled that no one can be charged with a criminal offense for posting offending messages on social media. Judge John Mativo declared as unconstitutional the section of the Penal Code that created criminal defamation.
The petition challenging criminal defamation was filed by Article 19 of East African Lobby Group, claiming that the provision was being abused by the police and the DPP to arrest and prosecute people who are merely expressing their freedom to use the media to communicate and socialize. While giving a ruling on the petition, Justice John Mativo ruled that Section 194 of the Penal Code, which created criminal defamation, allowing the Director of Public Prosecution to charge any person accused of defamation as unconstitutional, null and void.
The chilling possibilities of arrest, detention 2 years imprisonment are manifestly excessive in their effect and unjustifiable in a modern democratic society like ours. Above all, I am clearing my mind that there is an appropriate and satisfactory alternative in civil remedy that is available to combat this mischief of defamation.
What this means for the media and other generators of content is that they will no longer live under fear of being arrested, arraigned in court for criminal libel, and possibly jailed for such publications. All they require to do is to ensure that whenever they publish such statements, they have justification for it. Justice Mativo further ordered the termination of criminal defamation cases through various media channels.
A law, even if patently justifiable, shall not be construed as limiting the right of fundamental freedom unless the provision is clear and specific about the right of freedom to be limited and the nature and extent of the limitation, and shall not limit the right of fundamental freedom to so far as to derogate from its core essential valid content.
In 2005, charges of criminal libel were dropped against the first Kenyan journalist to be charged for writing about alleged government corruption. This after Kamau Ngodho's lawyers argued that the law blocked journalists from performing their duties. The media have had their fair share of challenges in the last 5 years due to several attempts to curtail the freedom of journalists. The National Assembly has passed laws that have targeted media with retrogressive clauses. Kenya media industry owes its survival to courts and strong lobby groups, media owners, journalists who have consistently underscored the importance of freedom of media as enshrined in Article 34 of the Constitution. Chris Dairo, KTN News.
Machakos Governor Dr. Alfred Mutua's Maendeleo Chap party continued to reap from Jubilee Party strongholds. Mutua received Embu Senator Lenny Kivuti, Mbeere North MP Murioki Jagagwa, and 20 other MCAs from the county. Kivuti accused the Jubilee leadership of favoring selected leaders from the county with an intention to hand them direct nomination tickets during the party primaries. Kivuti has expressed his interest in the Embu gubernatorial seat and will face whoever will win the Jubilee ticket between the incumbent Martin Wambora and Runyenje's Member of Parliament Cecily Mbarire.
My leaving Jubilee has nothing to do with one individual. It's a question of systems. If you're in a system that you feel you are not comfortable, you don't just quit. You try and correct it. I don't think I have the capacity and the power to correct Jubilee. So what I did, I threw the back to the people who elect me. Everybody feels their governor, aspiring governor, should not remain in Jubilee, should go to another party. Actually, they did not say which other party. Most of them were saying, go independent, go to PNU, go to Nakenya, but all of them said they don't want me to go to ODM or NASA.
Hii chama yetu ya Maendeleo Chap haiko ndani ya Jubilee na haiko ndani ya NASA, iko ndani ya roho ya wananchi. Sababu wananchi wanataka maendeleo. But it is very clear we are not fielding any presidential candidate. But our candidate of choice is President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Right, civil servants eyeing elective political seats in the August 8th general elections will not have to resign on Wednesday this week, as was initially the case. According to the Elections Act, civil servants must resign 6 months to the general election. A High Court ruling today, however, suspended the implementation of that law until the conclusion of a case currently before the Kericho High Court next week.
Section 43(5) of the Elections Act. A public officer who intends to contest an election shall resign from office at least 6 months before the date of the election. This deadline for the purpose of the August 8th general election would have been this Wednesday, the 8th of February. But this clause is currently the basis of a legal petition at the Kericho Labor Relations Court, where Eric Cheriot, a Kipkelion civil servant, has challenged the legality of sending civil servants packing 6 months to the election, while allowing the incumbent right from the members of county assembly to the president to remain in office until the day of the election. And on Monday, Kericho-based High Court Judge Njage Marete extended his earlier order, barring the country's electoral body, IEBC, from disqualifying civil servants who will not have resigned by Wednesday until the court delivers the final ruling in the case on the 14th of February. Among top civil servants who have already expressed interest in politics and who are expected to resign pursuant to this law, a Kenyan ambassador to the United States, Njero Githae, who wants to be Kirinyaga governor, Kenyan ambassador to Tanzania, Chirau Ali Mwakwere, who is eyeing the Kwale governorship, Water CS Eugene Wamalwa, who has expressed interest in the Nairobi governorship, and a host of sitting county executive officers eyeing parliamentary and county assembly seats.
I think we might be forced to put everything on hold. We might be forced to put everything on hold until after the elections. I would understand it. I hate it because it's an admission of failure on us as a people. But it is what we would need to do.
But the Kericho case has come at a time when Treasury and the Council of Governors are locked in a bitter dispute over some idle 33 billion shillings lying unutilized across the 47 counties. Some observers fear that this money could find its way into the 2017 campaigns.
That argument is completely illogical, because it assumes that the national government people don't campaign, and therefore they themselves cannot use national government resources to campaign. So why single out county governments? Why then don't you stop the national government ministries, ministers also from having access to any money during?
There must be structures. There must be regulations. There must be laws that makes it impossible for you just to dip your hand in state coffers. So it is tragic, actually.
The controller of budget to make sure that the remaining 7 months they control the IFMI system, they control the budgetary allocations, and make sure that public resources are not lost during or are not misused during the electioneering period.
With the political premium of virtually all the elective seats rising by the day, the gatekeepers of public coffers will clearly have to be on the lookout this year as more and more serving civil servants express an interest in the 2017 polls. Muremi Mwangi, KTN News.
You're watching Monday Night News here on KTN News. Thank you for staying with us. A quick reminder of our big Q tonight. We're asking whether you think the government is targeting opposition zones in the fight against narcotics. Here's some of what you're saying. James Jackson: if a leader is involved, let him face the law. If not, the court will decide. Let's stop petty politics. David Njakai, you said the opposition should be ashamed. Thousands of youths are dying and people are politicizing the issue. Brighton Ashoro, you tweet, by drugs, the only means cocaine and heroin. How about bang, which is being peddled everywhere in Kiambu? Raya, we don't really care about which zones are being targeted as long as we see tangible results in the war against drugs. Keep your comments coming. And please, if you can, stay with us. We'll be back after these few messages. Good evening and welcome back to Monday Night News. We're glad you're watching. We now want to take you through some of the results that were released today by Ipsos Synovate from a survey that it conducted on several issues touching on education. And this, of course, was conducted between 9th and 26th of January with respondents, 2,057 respondents being questioned on the issues that they were able to cover. One of them being those that have been able to achieve education or get education, so achievement of education levels, and that is for primary and secondary schools. And this was in particularly for households that are earning 10,000 shillings or less. So this found that some university education and above, just 2% of those households, and that's the smallest one. You can see over there the green as is illustrated here and also on our pie chart there. Then some who have at least been involved and completed some middle-level college or education, 6%. 19 going to secondary school, those that have completed. Again, remember, just those earning 10,000 or less. Let's go to the next board. That shows us it's 58%. As you can see here, that have completed primary school or at least joined primary school at some point, which is the biggest share of that pie, and some who have at least had some education in secondary school, 15%. Then let's move on to the next question that they asked. How confident are you that the exams were marked and scored correctly? Of course, so the last year's national examinations. And it appears a large number of people across the board in as far as sections such as without any child in secondary school. You had 77% feeling strongly about that. Very confident is what the green represents. The purple, confident. The red, not confident at all. So 10% were not confident. With at least one child in secondary school, you had 75% confident. The total, of course, average of all of them is 77%, which is pretty good. And as far as, you know, confidence in whether the exams were scored or marked correctly, if you like. Households without a teacher, 76% strong again there. And as far as confidence is concerned, household with a teacher, 77%. Again, you have a 10% there that is not so confident about the same. Then there was a question about whether the respondents support the proposal to have the scoring verified by independent educational experts, so that after the marking, then there's other individuals coming in to just check everything has been done correctly. So a total 48% are in support of that. So there's 52 who don't think, you know, it's necessary. So from Rift Valley, And Rift Valley had the highest score in as far as those who support the proposals to have independent individuals verifying. The same with a 59% score. They feel there is need to have a second look at those results. And of course, Western going at 54% for Coast. And 36% Nairobi, as you'll see there on our next board as well. So that, as we continue to the next board, yes, there you go, 36% Nairobi. So Nairobi County, according to this survey, feeling strongly that after the results have come through, there's a 74% feel that, or rather 64% confidence in the marking in the first stage. Then there's the final question. Do you support the decision by the Ministry of Education to ban tuition for primary and secondary school students? And this, of course, during the school holidays. So 54% total say that they support that decision, that there should not be tuition. Children should be allowed to rest and get involved in other activities. Western, very strong there with a 61% support of that ban. Nairobi with 60%. The county with the lowest support for this being Northeastern, as you'll see in our final board right here. There you go, Northeastern 12%. And of course, various other issues that survey covered, but just highlighting some of those for you from Ipsos Synovate. Right, let's go on to other news. And the fight against female genital mutilation is a stubborn one, and often one wonders whether it can ever be won. Well, in one Maasai village, the community has resolved to change tactics and involve the elderly men who are set in their traditional ways and usually oppose any interference in their customs. Our reporter, Lofty Matambo, with these insights on zero tolerance against FGM.
In the 4 decades that Mzee Kazimoto in Kamaisei has lived in the Maasai land of Narok County, he has seen it all. Today, we find him on his daily mission of preaching zero tolerance towards female genital mutilation to his fellow Maasai men. He has organized a debate session at Tasaru Girls Rescue Center, where many old men are ready to defend the deeply rooted culture of FGM by tooth and nail. It's going to be a heated one, we are told.
Serikali hataki, Tasaru hataki, kanisa hataki, machifu hataki. Sasa unadhairisha na njia gani? Kwa sababu hutaki msichana hajadhairi.
Lazima usiku tunaibaiba siku hizi, usiku hatuwezi fanya mchana na tuchinji kondoo.
Kwani Mungu alikuwa mjinga? Ni uchafu gani nyinyi wa Masai mnasema ati tutatoa kwa msichana? Mbona Warani walikuwa wanatembea na wasichana na hajatahiri? Alafu sasa siku ya kuoa ati lazima atahiriwe. Wewe kutoka katika hiyo giza.
Emotions are running high. Blessosai Loje is one of the men ready to die for this cultural practice that has been passed down generations. Kazimoto has been thrown off balance. Kazimoto has 4 daughters. He says he wouldn't stand the pain of the blade on his daughter's body, and that's his reason for starting this campaign.
Ile shida kubwa, msichana hawezi ongea mbele ya mama wengine. Hata ule hajakatwa akiongea anambia wewe nyamaza kwa sababu wewe ni msichana hujakatwa.
Over the years, discussions around FGM have mainly been focused on women's perspective. But in this largely patriarchal society, community workers want men brought to the conversation.
Mama ni brand ya kuchukuliwa na mwanaume. Na mwanaume akikataa kuoa msichana ambayo hajakatwa, basi tutakuwa tumeleta shida kwa familia ya Kimasai. Kwa hivyo lazima mzee akubaliane na kuacha tohara na kukubali ya kwamba tohara si muhimu, ndio naye hawa wasichana wasikuja wawe wamekataliwa kwa mila ya Kimasai.
This has been the song, recitable by almost every Maasai girl. Rescue centers are emerging each day, but just how willing are the residents to embrace this campaign?
Mamangu na babangu walikuwa wanapasha kunipasha tohara. Siku hiyo ilipowadia nilikuwa nimesikia wakisemesana,
kwa sababu wanahitaji tu kusema sisi hatutaoa wasichana wamekeketwa.
The 2014 Demographic and Health Survey showed a steady decline of FGM cases. In 2008, 27% of Kenyan women and girls had undergone the cut. By 2014, that number dropped to 21%. Most of the affected women were between 15 and 49 years. But a shocking 43% were girls aged between 10 and 14 years. The government aims to eradicate FGM by 2030.
Idadi ya ukeketaji ni asilimia 98 kule mkoa wa kaskazini mashariki, na utapata kwamba pale dini imetumiwa vibaya kueneza ukeketaji. Unaambiwa kwamba wewe sio msafi na Allah hawezi sikiza maombi yako kama haujakatwa. Eneo lingine ambalo ukeketaji uko juu ni kule Nyanza.
Meanwhile, the debate continues.
Na mimi nataka kuwajibu ninyi ya kwamba hiyo ndio sababu sisi wa Masai kwa masomo tuko nyuma.
Hakuna mambo mengine, tukubali hiyo maneno. Tukubali tu hiyo maneno. Hii vijana yetu anasema ile msichana hajatahiri. Akilalisha ni tamu. Lakini ile amekatwa hakuna tamu.
Sababu anasema msichana ule hajakatwa ako na joto sana, anaweza toka nje kutafuta wase. Tumekuja kuelimisha pia wase wapate mbinu ama nafasi ya kukaa na bibi yake. Hapo tumemaliza kwa sababu tumeambia ule amekatwa si ameleta mtoto ya fulani.
Once we break the cycle in one generation, then they will not mutilate.
Clearly, it has been a heated debate. And as they say, those who disagree finally agree. Probably these old men are getting closer into finding a solution to end FGM. Lofty Matambo, KTN News, in the county of Nakuru.
Thank you for keeping it KTN News. Time for business. I'm Joy Doreen Bira. The Public Investments Committee of Parliament has instructed the Kenya Pipeline Company to halt the payment of 11 billion shillings to a contractor for ongoing works for pipeline expansion. The PIC also ordered construction firm Jakim International Construction Limited to complete works on the new Mombasa-Nairobi pipeline by the 30th of April of 2017 so as not to be in breach of contract, adding that it would not receive any further extensions. The directive came after members of the Public Investment Committee made an inspection tour of Line 5 enhancement project. The PIC expressed concern that any further extensions or delays in the completion of the project would result in further cost escalations that would overburden taxpayers, with the project having already received 2 prior extensions. Kenya Airports Authority is in its last stage of implementing the first phase of the expansion of the Malindi International Airport, which cost the government nearly 1 billion Kenya shillings. The new ultra-modern terminal building with a capacity of holding 500 passengers per hour is complete. Malindi Airport manager Walter Agong said that the expansion of Apron, a modern car park and security system, was 85% complete. He said phase 2 will include expanding the runway from 1.4 kilometers to 2.5 kilometers. The expansion plan is aimed at meeting the rising demands of tourists.
Already, Kenya National Land Commission has gazetted the portion to be acquired, and we expect within the stipulated period by law, the people will be paid and the land will be given to the airport authority to undertake the envisaged developments.
Thousands of affected residents from hard-hit drought areas received foodstuff in a move by the government to address the biting drought. The State Department of Special Programs has been purchasing and distributing maize from the Galana irrigation scheme. This is in line with an ongoing drought mitigation exercise rolled out in Taita Taveta, Tana River and Ganze areas of Kilifi County. On this week's episode of The Next Frontier, Philip Keitany was embedded in the distribution exercise and brings us the following report on The Next Frontier.
According to a recent report by the National Drought Management Authority, more than 1.3 million Kenyans are facing starvation and are in dire need of relief food. The drought situation has reportedly claimed hundreds of livestock, leaving communities impoverished. To avert a full-blown crisis, the State Department for Special Programs has come to the rescue of those affected by the drought at the coastal region and has purchased 50,000 bags of maize from the Galana Irrigation Scheme for 90 million shillings for onward distribution to all affected counties in the coastal belt.
We have a steering committee of each and every sub-county, and issues of drought is co-shared between national government and county government. So this steering committee brings its heads together from national government and county government to ensure all the relief we receive are distributed to the needy.
The ravaging effects of the droughts are dire. Meet 100-year-old Janet Modime. She is the sole breadwinner for her 4 grandchildren who depend on her. The other affected person is Michael Nyange, who is also the chairperson of people living with HIV and AIDS in Taita Taveta County, and he tells me without the relief food, it is almost impossible for his members to take their daily dose of drugs.
Kwa sababu watu kama sisi ambao wako na hilo janga tuteke ardhi iko na shida kama hujashiba, na hata tuna wengi wale wanakuwa drug defaulters. Maanake kama uko satisfied huwezi kutumia hizo tablets, zina knock down.
Kama si mradi mimi singeli kwepo mzima, lakini umesevu na umesevu wengine, kila kwa mwezi tunapata chakula bwana.
So far, more than 1,000 families in Taita Taveta County have been affected by the current drought. And as the government distributes the relief maize to the most vulnerable in the society, it is also emerging that both domestic and wild animals are in dire need of the same.
So now we will see elephants moving from the park to the homes. So we are sensitizing people that even elephants are part and parcel of Taita Taveta.
With the current drought expected to persist, the Galana Kulalu irrigation scheme is expected to act as a lifeline for the coastal people, with 2,000 acres expected to be harvested every month, with a target of 100,000 bags.
With the expansion of Galana, moving away from the 2,000 to 10,000, to ultimately the targeted 400,000 acres, we shall not only be able to feed the coastal region, but we shall also feed the entire country.
The Galana irrigation scheme has so far produced 3 harvests of 130,000 bags, with these 90,000 bags that have stored at the Voi National Cereals and Produce Board expected to be distributed at the drought-stricken areas of the coastal region. Philip Keitany for the Next Frontier.
Quite some good news there for the people affected by the drought situation. Now, could Kenya finally be starting to see the makings of an industrial revolution all of its own? Will the country finally become an industrial regional powerhouse regionally? All these are pertinent questions after, Peugeot, that is the automaker, announced it would start assembling cars. In Kenya, the announcement comes hot on the heels of a recent similar move by German manufacturer Volkswagen.
Weeks after the official launch of Volkswagen's new local assembly plant in Thika, the first locally assembled units are finally in the showrooms. The move being the latest attempt by motor vehicle dealer DT Dobi to wrest market share from used car sellers who account for about 80% of total vehicle sales in Kenya. President Uhuru Kenyatta announced the signing of a deal that will see the return of French company Peugeot's assembly plant in Kenya after a decade-long absence.
Very few Kenyans are strangers to Peugeot. It is a brand that has been with us since independence.
The company has pumped in 1.2 billion shillings into the project and hopes to employ 200 people to help roll out its first Kenyan-assembled Peugeot 508 in June this year.
And we have decided to step forward with the assembly of cars here.
Investment in other areas of manufacturing also appears to be rebounding. Kenya's manufacturing output grew by 3.5% in 2016. Wrigley, the American confectionery conglomerate, invested 5.8 billion shillings in a plant in Machakos, while Volkswagen Group, the world's largest car manufacturer, started production at its Thika plant late last year. Despite analysts predicting a sluggish economic year due to the upcoming general elections and central bank predicting 5.7% growth in 2017 down from 5.9% in 2016, things could be looking up for the manufacturing industry. Ashley Mazuri, KTN News.
Well, that's it for KTN Business. But for more, remember you can log on to our website, ktnnews.com. And now a look at the financial markets, where we are now seeing the NSE 20 share index starting to rise. In fact, at close of trading today, it had gone up 5 points. My name is Joy Doreen Bira. Have a good night.
The national women's rollball team is seeking to reproduce performances that saw Kenya defy her underdog tag to emerge as world champion in India in 2015. The world champions who recently successfully defended the African title in Uganda in 2016 are seeking to continue with their unbeaten run as they head to Bangladesh for the World Cup.
The national women's rollball team is seeking to reproduce performances that saw Kenya defy her underdog tag to emerge as the world rollball champions in India in 2015. The world champions, who recently successfully defended their African crown in Uganda, are seeking to continue with the unbeaten run as they head to Bangladesh for the World Cup.
Challenge iko kila team ina train ya Kenya. Hiyo ndio ile big challenge tuko nayo. I'm very hopeful that this time we might come back with the 2 trophies. Players wako charged kabisa. They have that urge.
Yeah, very, very much prepared because you know so many countries are training against us because we are the winning champions and we are defending our cup.
Despite poor training conditions and lack of adequate facilities, the team feels the challenges they are going through serve as a motivation to spur them on to greater heights.
Passion and prayers ndio wangaina to keep in this business. Otherwise, would have given up long time ago.
There are challenges and also for us it's a motivation. Maybe the Kenyan government should also help us actually achieve what we want.
Kenya produced the most valuable player in Monica Mutunga in the World Cup finals, and this year head coach Jacob Nyaudo believes a number of his charges will impress.
This time I'm going to surprise people because perhaps they're expecting the players who played the 3rd World Cup.
I'm expecting to maintain the very, very same position that I had because I'm now more powerful than even the other time.
Kenya cites India and Pakistan as the biggest threat in the competition.
But now I've never played Pakistan. And remember, Pakistan have been winning all matches they play against India.
Because these are the first teams that started rollball, and plus they have trained more.
The men have also not been left out. After finishing 4th in the 2015 World Cup, the men's national team are also promising to bag this year's championship.
In the last World Cup, we learned a lot, but this time we are training hard. We are praying hard with the team and we're training hard. We'll achieve it.
Both teams will depart the country on 15th of February for the championship, which kicks off on the 17th of February in Bangladesh. Robinson Okenye, KTN Sports.
Wrestling national team expects a busy calendar as they prepare to perform better than 2016. The team did its selection at the prison's grounds, and the technical bench believes the team has what it takes to perform better this year. The side has several tournaments lined up and hope to post better results. However, their biggest challenge is lack of sponsors, and they're hoping to get the much-needed financial aid for their busy schedule. before we leave you tonight, let's give you the poll results. We had asked you on our Big Q whether you think the government is targeting opposition's zones in the fight against narcotics. 60% of you are saying yes, 31% say no, 9% you're not sure about that. And Ken Jakodul, you say hypocrisy. They said white people are against Africans because of ICC. Now they take Kenyans to be charged abroad. And then Raya, to stop FGM, you're commenting on a different story. It is important to involve owners. Then we have, I support doctors saying, kindly Moha Jichopevu to make sure he looks into this drug story. Shiroa Mam, I hope this is the bottom of the lowest the politicians can go in as far as politicizing such an important issue. And finally, Daniel Obare, certainly yes. By the way, the Deputy President did talk today as well about the same issue. All right, we thank you. That's all the time we had for tonight, unfortunately. But thank you for taking the time to send in your feedback on our Big Q on behalf of the entire team here on KTN News that made the bulletin possible. Again, it was a pleasure to have your company with us. I wish you a blessed night. We'll see you tomorrow.